This is the Growlers Nation Podcast, the official podcast of the Newfoundland Growlers. And now, here's your host, Growlers play-by-play voice, Chris Ballard.
Hello, Growlers Nation, and welcome to the first episode of the Newfoundland Growlers Podcast. I am Chris Ballard, play-by-play voice of the Newfoundland Growlers. I'm really excited to be expanding our offerings to you on the digital side and engage you in podcast form. So moving forward from now into the regular season, at home, on the road, the plan is to bring you all the best news, updates, analysis, behind-the-scenes stuff, everything you guys want to know about your Newfoundland Growlers. So that being said, really quick, I'm just going to gloss over what we're going to do format-wise, at least to start the podcast. We certainly want your guys' input listening along, so if there's something you do want to hear or see covered moving forward, please make sure to connect with us via our social media channels. But for now, after my short intro, we can now click that one off the list. We'll be joined every week. I'd like to have a feature interview on here, really giving you all of the inside scoop from within the Growlers organization. We'll talk to players, we'll talk to staff, we'll try and get some special guests on here sharing all the stories that you really want to know that you might not get by sitting in the stands at Mile One Center or listening along at home on Mixlr, watching on Rogers, wherever you may be tuning in from. So after our feature interview, we'll do some fan Q&A. We've pulled some questions for our inaugural podcast from a Twitter poll I did a little while ago. And then to end it all off, and this one I'm really excited about, we're going to do a feature called Growlerville. And here's where I'm coming from with this. So the way I see it, this is a province team. We wear Newfoundland on the chest, not St. John's. And regardless of where you live across this great province of Newfoundland and Labrador, you could be in St. John's, Corner Brook, Deer Lake, anywhere in between. We all live in Growlerville. We're all Growlers fans, united under the Growlers umbrella, and we're going to shed some light on some of these great hockey communities throughout the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, tell the stories about what makes these communities so great and great hockey communities. So we're really excited about that. So without further ado, after that short and halfway broken introduction, I am pleased to introduce our first feature guest. He is the captain of your Newfoundland Growlers, fresh off of the inaugural season championship Kelly Cup win. Still getting goosebumps every time I say that. Goulds native, number 43, James Melindy. James, thanks for joining me here today, my friend.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for letting me be special enough to be the first guy on. Numero
uno, man. Well, we had to do that. How was your off season?
Short. It was kind of a whirlwind after we won. It was a lot of fun times had, and I think most of the guys stayed for just short of 2 weeks.
That long, eh?
Yeah, so it was good. After that all kind of settled down and everybody left, it kind of gave it a little bit more time to sink in of what we actually accomplished. I mean, you know, the days after and stuff, it still didn't really sink into how special of a moment it was. And
when did it sink in? Did you have that moment? Like, I'm cried in the shower a week ago when it all kind of hit me. That was my moment. Did you have a moment?
I don't know if I've had a moment or if it's even really sunk in until we, it ends up being opening night and, the banner is going to be raised and stuff. So it's still a little bit surreal, I guess. It's a lot of good memories. All the team pretty much stays in close contact throughout all the summer. That's were great. Extremely close, so we always check up on each other and see how everybody's summer's going. But yeah, I guess a couple weeks, and like I said, when all the guys left, it kind of sank in a little bit, but still a pretty amazing feeling. Even, going around town and people stopping you to say congratulations.
I was going to say, I imagine you haven't had to buy a beer yet.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty good. Even at, going in the grocery store and people will come up to you and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, come down to a lot of the games. It's awesome what you guys did.
That's so cool,
It's pretty special, yeah. It's a cool feeling, and it just shows, how much this championship meant to the whole province.
So obviously, before we jump into talking about the upcoming season, which I know we're all pumped about, I want to dive in a bit about the season that was. Obviously, the first pro championship in Newfoundland history. I mean, come on, being the captain of this team, you're from here, getting to be the first one in this province's history to help bring that home for the province. How cool is that for you?
Amazing.
I know that's a hard question to answer, too. It's like, oh, man, yeah, I am this great ambassador now for Newfoundland. It's great. Of course you're not going to think that. But, I mean, has that kind of hit home what this really means for this province yet?
It was, I guess, first when I heard that the team was going to be coming to Newfoundland, it was obviously something that, caught my eye, and it was something that I really wanted to be a part of,
Yeah, of course.
Any chance you get to play professional hockey at home, it's a super special feeling. So I didn't quite feel it when I was in the American Hockey League and the Ice Caps were here, because I was still trying to get my feet wet and see what pro hockey was all about. So I didn't exactly want to play at home at that point in time.
Yeah.
But then, when the team left and you weren't able to come home at all, it certainly made it a more unique and intriguing place to want to come back and play. So it started, with our opening meetings and Chloe and Snowy kind of setting the tone on.
I remember Pard said during the parade that was a terrifying meeting.
Yeah, it was intense. It was demanding on what he wanted out of each individual on the team, and knowing that you weren't going to be given anything, no matter who you were. Everything had to be earned. So there was a standard set that you needed to work, and if you worked, you were going to get rewarded. So we set a good culture, and obviously Chloe and Snowy and the Toronto organization did a really good job of bringing the right people in, and it was a mix of things. Like, we had speed, but we also had a big decor, two good goaltenders, and even if you look at the guys that came in throughout the season, we went through quite a few players with call-ups and injuries. So no matter who came in, they all bought in and did extremely well. And I think it all has to do with how close we were as a group and how demanding we were of each other, that we didn't want to let the person across from you. I know it sounds like a cliche thing, but it was, we were that tight of a group.
Cliches are cliches because they hold some truth here.
Yeah, so it was like nobody wanted to let down their buddy. So that part was huge to build and bring success to our group. And our season as a whole went along with, at the start of the year we'd win a game and then we'd lose a game and then we'd win a game and we lose a game. We really couldn't stretch together games, and then when we did start to figure it out, and I think it was with a new team, nobody knew anybody besides, I guess, the local guys that we knew each other.
Well, all the Toronto guys had all been to development camp, Marley's camp, probably rookie camp for some of them, and then down. So there's a handful of guys who would have played together a fair bit, right?
But it was a little bit of a different thing in which you're not taken from a group that's already established themselves and returning players and that sort of
you're building from scratch one way or the other here.
So if you look at the building of our team, we had the majority of our team was first-year players. So there was a lot to learn. It's not junior anymore. It's not college hockey. It's an extended schedule with a lot of travel. And if anybody had tough travel, it was us this year. So
that's correct.
It was a bit of a learning curve, but once we hit our stride, we, like you said, that 8-game
winning streak after that win one, lose one.
So that helped, and then it brought confidence, and after that there wasn't too many lulls in our season besides, I guess, when we finally clinched and we didn't end the season the way we wanted to, but at the end of the day we went in the playoffs and we had our mindset on that end goal and just kind of kept our foot on the pedal from there.
So I'll ask you this, was there a point at which, I feel like, I mean, I've been around the game long enough there's that kind of galvanizing moment or that point where you say, man, I really think we can do this. I think we can go all the way. Obviously, with the group that we had right from training camp at the Glacier this time last year, you knew it was, I felt like this group was going to be pretty special. Was there a moment at anywhere along there where you said, you look around the room and say, we have a group that can do this?
Yeah, I think I knew we were going to have a good team from the start of the year just because of how much help we were going to get from Toronto. Did I know it was going to work as well as it did?
Nobody.
No, because when you do have so much star power and the guys that are used to playing big minutes, you don't know how they're going to handle being put in different situations. But
good point.
Like you said, if you put the right group of people together with the right mindset and willingness to do whatever it takes to win, guys are willing to take a third line role instead of a first line role.
Sure.
Now, mind you, our first line to our second to our third were pretty interchangeable.
Exactly.
Our lines weren't really anything from 1 to 3 because all of them were extremely good and probably would have been first lines on any other team. So it's like I said, it's tough. You don't really know what to expect with a lot of new guys coming in and a lot of talent. So we found a way to figure things out, and at the end of the day, when you all buy in and you have a good game plan in mind, it's success breeds from it, and it's the coaching staff too. Like
Very good point.
We had a plan from the start of the year. It didn't sway at all. It was all the same, no matter when it was Chloe was the head coach, and then when he had to step down and Snowy stepped up as our head coach. Nothing wavered. There was no lull or thinking, just because Chloe's gone, the same expectations weren't going to be met. It was Snowy held us to that same high standard, and when you have that and practices as intense as we had, it was throughout the year. It's sometimes there's practices where they're off and guys are feeling shitty, or it's been a long day of travel, but no matter when we were on the ice, we came there to work.
Absolutely.
And when it was time to get things done, we got it done. So yeah, through the middle of the season, it kind of felt like, hey, we got something special here.
Yeah.
We can really take advantage of it. And I know for myself, the year that I went to the finals with Wheeling, it was kind of like a similar feeling where it was like, no matter what the game was, you never feel out of it. No matter if you're down 4 goals, it was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to come back. Like,
and you had a great team that year too.
So it was one of those things where it's like you never feel worried on the ice that you're going to lose games. There's that confidence, there's that swagger, and we had it. And I think a lot of it too that pushed us maybe above the other teams in the league was everybody brought their best for us.
Yeah, no, that's an absolute
There was nobody that gave us an off night. Like, we had a lot of hard games. If you look at the real changing point in the season, I think it would have been like that Fort Wayne 3-3
That's what I was going to say. You're stealing my answer.
Yeah, it's
first 3-3 all year. This is like the second week of February. I remember the weather that week was awful, it does impact. It impacts me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was the first game of that series. The Growlers won in a shootout. There was a shootout, an overtime loss. And then Sunday at 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. or whatever it was.
And that was an overtime win.
1-0.
Yes. So that was kind of...
That's a gutsy weekend.
Against a hard veteran team.
The only Western Conference team we had faced all season.
And they always have good teams.
Always.
They always have big, tough teams. So it was like...
Veteran teams.
In the Eastern Conference and in our division especially, all the teams are kind of built similar. And then you get an older squad come in like Fort Wayne that plays hard and they're playing tough and they're finishing their hits, so they give you a different aspect. And when I seen that we were going to have success and guys didn't back off or anything, they brought their physical game up a little bit more, I knew that no matter who we face, we wouldn't have any trouble adjusting our games.
Hear you. Even looking through the schedule, and it's easy to do that now in the rearview mirror, but I don't know that the Growlers had lost 4 out of a 7-game segment all year. So I remember me going into the playoffs. I'm the one kind of getting the fans hype from, doing what I do. And I almost didn't want to say that because this team looked really good heading into the postseason.
Yeah. It was.
I mean, like that little blip at the end, notwithstanding.
Yeah, and we had some injuries and stuff like that at the end of the season, where some guys sat out and stuff. But I'm not using that as an excuse at all. Once playoffs hit, and then it kind of sank in where Snowy was punching it home of, Newfoundland as a province has never won a major championship in professional sports.
That's
so
right.
We have a chance to do something special. There was a pump-up video that I think Paul Dagg, our video coach, made up himself. And I know for me, being here and seeing the video and the different clips of the landscape here and older clips from games at the Old Memorial Stadium, and it was one of those things that it gives you cold shivers. I mean, like, for me growing up, watching games at the Mall 1, at the Old Memorial Stadium, for a chance to come back and play here as my home stadium was really cool. And I think, that video was something that I think really amped the boys up.
No kidding.
We knew that we were going to have a tough opponent in Brampton in the first round, but they matched up really well with us. They had good goaltending and stuff, but we just always found a way to find another gear and find a way to win games. And at that point in the season, that's all that matters is not always, how you win, but just getting that W.
Getting it done. So let's go through really quickly, more for my sake than anything else. I want to go through each round of the playoffs and kind of just pull your thoughts about each of the opponents, and then we'll roll into the finals before we move on to the next topics. Brampton series, 3-0 series lead, double overtime goal for Obi, first one in Brampton. Everything looked good. Then they low-key stomped us for 2 games. Jardine ends it 10 seconds into Game 6. Sum it up from your perspective. Was Brampton the Growlers' toughest opponent in the playoffs? Maybe the finals notwithstanding. First 3 rounds, my money, that was a tough series.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from the other teams that we played, but I think that Brampton gave us the hardest test because they were physical. They were kind of a little bit greasy. Their goaltending was outstanding, and I mean, at the end of the day, it really was a goalie battle because Gartz was playing unbelievable,
100%,
and Marcoux we were having a tough time to beat. So it was a battle literally from Game 1 to Game 6, and it wasn't like the games could have went either way.
Absolutely.
And I've said this to many people. I think if Brampton had to get past us, they potentially had a chance to win the cup. I think they could have done it.
I agree.
Just because of the way their team was built and just older veteran guys there with good goaltending, and they gave us pretty much all we could handle for a lot of it. But at the same time, there was never a point in time where we thought, oh, here we go, like we're deep into it. There was always a confidence, no matter what series it was. Whenever we lost,
right.
we didn't want to lose one game, let alone a couple.
I think that was the only time the Growlers lost back-to-back all playoffs?
Yeah, it might have been. So, I mean, there was never any panic that ever came into the room at all, and we just stuck with our plan, and it got us through that first series.
Going to overtime in Game 6, what was going through your mind?
For me, a lot, because obviously with the hit that...
That's right. Ellenuk took a high hit from Racine, 5-minute major to lead off overtime, right?
Yeah, so it was one of those things you never, no matter if it's your team or anybody else's or the opposition, you never want to see anybody go down and get hurt.
Of course.
But for that to happen at that point in time, we wanted to make them pay.
Yeah.
Like, if they're going to do something
that
we considered to be a stupid play that didn't need to be
made at
all, we wanted to make them pay. So in the dressing room, we knew that with our power play, 5 minutes, we were going to have
we're going to get some looks here.
We're going to get some good looks, and it wasn't too long into it. And
under a minute.
Under
30 seconds maybe.
And Jards, it was funny. He
he talked about it, he
was like, I wasn't even shooting to score, but it ended up
And Marcoux had been so good.
So good.
That one, I'm not going to say it was a weak goal, but I'm sure he's having nightmares about it a little bit.
But I guess when you get so many good looks that get saved, sometimes that's the way it works. It's just like one of these weird shots that
it was a good shot. It was snuck it inside the far post low. It's not an easy shot to stop, but still.
But it was just like the opportunities that we were getting beforehand to not score on, and then to get something like that from Jards, who wasn't an extremely big goal scorer.
That was his only goal as a Growler.
He put up good points while he was here because he's a very good
dish man.
Good dish and can see the ice really well. But that was huge for us. I mean, like when you get a chance to, obviously
winning a series in overtime.
Winning a series in overtime at home, under the circumstances that it was, we felt we really wanted to make this guy pay for what he did. So I think it'll be it was a long summer for him, for sure.
Love it. Manchester series, the only series in which the Growlers trailed at any point. We lost game 1 and then played in a real funky, weird barn in their last game in Manchester, basically twin rinks. Finished it off again in 6. What do you take away from Manch?
Everybody was kind of surprised because if you look throughout the whole league and the matchups and everything, we figured that we would be facing Adirondack at some point in time, and we didn't have a whole lot of success against them.
The only team I think the Growlers played all last season against whom the Growlers have a losing record.
Even if we did have to play them, I think we still would. We were ready for them, and playoff breeds a whole different type of hockey. But when we see Manchester went through and we had a lot of success against them, we were excited.
You're gonna feel good.
We're feeling good. We're going into Manchester, and we get down. We started would have been here, and they had a lot of guys sent down. They had a good team.
Yeah,
it was fast.
Good goaltending, Charles Williams.
Yeah, good goaltending. So it was. I wouldn't say any of our series were easy by any means, but we matched up extremely well with the way they played.
I think the Growlers were 11-0-1 against Manch in the regular season.
And
you're going to feel pretty good.
And our power play, I think that series was pretty on fire. So anytime when your special teams are good, you usually have a pretty good chance of coming out on top.
The correlation of success and good special teams, there is a positive correlation.
Yeah. So, no, it was a good series. It was fast. Maybe a little bit different than our first series where it was more... They played a little bit more of a structured game compared to Brampton's kind of run and gun,
exactly.
And kind of unorthodox with their systems and stuff like that.
A little more predictable maybe out of Manchester.
Yeah, but it kind of fed into our game as well.
True.
So, yeah, it was another tough series. We went, like you said, we played that game in Exeter, and it's...
Yeah, talk about that. That was so obviously I can only assume a lot of our fans have never been to Exeter, New Hampshire. It's a nice community facility. I think there's a couple of sheets of ice, but they had monster trucks or something in their original building at SNHU Arena, so they had to scramble last minute to find a location to play. It wasn't a bad facility as a community facility, but as a professional arena, my broadcast booth, I was in this loft that had a bunch of boxes of T-shirts and stuff in it. I had to go up a scissor lift to get to my booth. And I'm not supposed to be in scissor lifts if you've ever seen me. I'm very top heavy. So, yeah, it threw me for a bit of a loop. Just how I go about my preparation. I can only imagine it had to have been something similar for you guys. Right?
Yeah, the preparation of it all, it changes. Just the feeling of everything. You're coming up, there's stands on one side. It was cold in there.
Cold as hell.
You can't do your pregame warm-up inside because there wasn't any space. There was fans everywhere. Fans were heckling all over the place. They were in our kitchen. Our dressing room was literally in between periods. They could walk right through.
Basically knock on the door.
Knock on the door. So it was a tough game to get up for. They got a little lucky bounce.
Yeah, I remember that.
For one of the goals. Was that the overtime goal that they scored on? So it was just unfortunate, but it just seemed like it was kind of like a circus of a day. Where it was you're playing at a practice rink, they get a funny bounce where they end up, putting it in and winning it, and they felt like they had the most confidence in the world. But at the same time, we're going home now.
Yeah.
We don't lose at home. And it was one of those things, like they were doing a lot of hoot and hollering at center ice after they won, like they won the cup right away. And
I remember that.
I think that stuck with a lot of guys in our dressing room, where it was like, okay, they think that they're going to go and embarrass us and kind of and do that kind of stuff, where it was guys had a little bit more bite in their step when we got back home.
And another memory that sticks out to me about that series before we move on to the Florida Conference Final was, I think it was Game 2 here at home. And the game-winning goal ended up with 90 seconds or 89 seconds left, that set play off the draw. Fergie back to O'Brien. Without even, if you blinked, you'd missed it. Top cheese, Growlers win. That was the game winner. What do you remember of that? Were you on the ice? Were you on the bench? Do you remember much about it at all? Does that memory even stick out to you? Because with me, I thought that was that set play works 1 in 1,000 times. Right off the draw, bang. And it happened at a big moment. Local guy. I remember that. Me and Brian Rogers freaking out in the booth over that one. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was quick. Like, you're on the bench, and it was literally bang, bang, back of the net.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you try it a ton of times. The chances of it working, it happens every now and then. But for it to happen literally that perfect, it was like right on the tape. We didn't waste any time.
Puck wasn't on his stick for a split second. Gone.
And he just hammered it, and next thing you know, you just see him with so much emotion in him, flying down the ice, so excited. And we were also jacked up too, because it was, like you said, it was a huge goal. And
lost game 1.
Yeah, so it was, like you said, it's
turning point maybe.
It definitely could have been. And then if you look at some of the other series, we ended up scoring a lot of goals like that.
Yeah, no, a lot of the skill, yeah.
So, that was definitely one of the bigger goals in our playoff run, and it just goes to show it's not always about it wasn't. Sometimes it don't need to be the hardest shot; it's just how quick you get it off. Luckily, it was both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Luckily, it was both, but the majority of the time for it to happen that perfect, it very rarely.
Yeah, very rarely you could do that. Even on the plays on which you score, it's never as pretty as what Zach did there.
Yeah.
That was everything worked together. That was certainly one that's going to stick with me for a while. Conference final, Florida Everblades. That was, if you had asked me, was there a surprise along the way, I would say maybe the Everblades series, only because defending Eastern Conference champs, defending Coach of the Year, really skilled team, first in the Eastern Conference. They were obviously built for this situation. 5 games, a couple of blowouts in favor of the Growlers, mucking it up, both ends of the ice. Like I expected more of a skill game. Maybe I was ignorant to the pieces at play in front of me. But what do you make it? What do you make of that series in the rearview mirror?
Looking back at it, it was, if you're in the Eastern Conference, all you hear about is Florida Everblades, Everblades, and how they're this unstoppable team that, is just rolling through everybody. They're scoring a ton of goals, like all this. And we were confident. We knew, like, that their team was built to win in the playoffs.
Exactly.
And they get players down there, for one, because they win. They get a lot of call-ups.
Yeah. Also
from AHL
Florida factor too, surely.
And the final factor would be you're in Florida, you're in the heat, so they attract good players.
Yeah.
So when we went to play them, we knew that they were going to be different. They were going to be more physical. They were going to be a little bit stronger on the puck compared to the teams that we played in our division. And the first game, I remember coming out, and we were in Florida, so we didn't have home ice advantage.
First and only series.
And we kind of laughed about it because we went to Florida, and Snowy was real worried about the boys going out and enjoying the sun. And
absolutely.
And for us in Newfoundland, we had a tough winter, so everybody's like, we're going to the sun. Go. Like, this is going to be nice. Well, the day that we got in, we had that big downpour.
Rainstorm. I remember walking to dinner and just getting absolutely drenched.
So I'm sure Snowy was sitting in his room just laughing away, going, this couldn't have happened any better. Like, nobody can go do anything. They have to stay in their rooms. So I remember even like you said, the setup for the hotel and the restaurants was super close.
Oh yeah.
And what would have been a 2-minute walk, we all had to order Ubers because we didn't want to get soaking wet. And I still got wet leaving from the car to get to the front entrance of the building. It was rain like I've never ever seen before. So we went down, and it was that first game. They came out so hard, so hot off the start, flying. And we just kind of, I wouldn't say we stepped back, but we just weathered
it, yeah.
And it was like, weathered it, and then we scored our first goal, and then I think we won.
Empty netter, 2-0.
2-0. So it was like, okay, they
shut them out in their building, the reigning Eastern Conference champs. That was a big deal. And then in game 2, I felt like they picked it up a little bit, maybe physically.
Yeah.
And we did it again.
So, and then it got into a little bit of a.
That's when it got heated.
It got heated, and I mean, I'm not.
I love how calculated you're trying to be right now.
I'm trying to make this sound. I'm not the poster boy of
grade A top
grade
behavior.
A like sportsman hockey by any means, but I know that like there's some stuff that you just don't do, and I think the way that they handled it, it worked out completely opposite of the way they wanted to.
I agree.
Because we just let them do it, but I like.
I get it. I know what you're trying to say.
If the shoe was on the other foot and it was me going around doing some of the stuff that team was doing, I would be suspended for life.
You might be right.
And they thought their game plan was to go after our goalie, and we just kind of laughed and we're like, okay, you guys aren't worried about playing hockey anymore. We're still going to score goals on you guys. Like,
and I think game 2 when it was 5-1, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, so like it was one of those things where it was
you give us an inch, we'll take a mile.
Yeah, but that's just not the way the game is played. Like to go down and intentionally try to
run a goalie,
which they don't have any. What are they gonna do? They got all this gear on and they're supposed to be stopping pucks. They're not ever getting hit at all.
Right.
And to come in and run
but
the goalie.
Gart's got a little hot-headed in the moment, though. Maybe they thought maybe they saw something there that they were. I don't know. Were they trying to get under his skin? I guess. I remember there was one point. I might be thinking of a different scrum, but he might have been throwing some blockers in there.
Well, I mean, if I was him, I would have too.
Well, fair enough. You take a beating.
If you. You're
only human.
As a goaltender, you're expecting the referees to protect you, and if that doesn't happen, you kind of just try to take it upon yourself, or hopefully that somebody on your team is going to stick up for you. But I think the biggest thing with Florida was they just got so worked up about trying to get Gartz off his game,
and they allowed you guys to just go and play your game,
and we would just go to the power play, So they're putting. If you look at both of our power play units, they're both killer power plays.
Incredible.
And with the skill sets and the passing ability and the shooting and like the different players that we had on there, it was just like you're setting yourself up for a disaster if you want to put us on the power play all the time. And they were just, like I said, so worried about getting our goalie off his game that they just stopped playing hockey, and we took advantage of it.
And that had the opposite effect. Gartz had 3 shutouts that series.
Yeah.
And it just fueled him.
Fueled him. Like, he was ready to play.
The exact opposite effect in every possible way. And that game plan did not work.
And I'll say it, like, as big and physical as what everybody made him up to be, that was our easiest series.
Wild.
And everybody was, this big bag of Florida team they're going to be all you can handle. And you know what? Like, I figured at the start of the series, it was me and you had a chat.
And we did. Yeah.
It's going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long series. It's going to be tough. And we came out of it being like, huh.
So what did that do then going into the finals?
It was just like confidence because, we went through Brampton and that was
bit of a gauntlet,
a war, and it was just like everything was crazy to you're the Eastern Conference Finals and you get a little bit easier of a series.
Yeah.
And, you're going into the finals full of confidence, and we didn't know who we were going to get because we finished a little bit before
early.
They went to Game 7.
Tulsa and Toledo,
and we knew whatever team we were going to get, it was going to be tough, and then Toledo won, and we ended up facing them in the finals. And for guys that haven't played there before, it is a crazy atmosphere.
It's nuts, hey? I know every rink, everyone's going to say their fans are the loudest. I will give Toledo and its fans full credit. That barn, they set attendance records in each of the 3 games that they played there. 8,500, 87, and then 88 or something. Unprecedented in the ECHL. And do you think that affected guys rolling into Toledo? Hey, we're up 2-0 in the series. All of a sudden, you're in this NHL atmosphere almost. It was overwhelming for me in the booth. What did you feel on the ice?
To be honest, it's like it even gives you cold shivers just talking about it because it was so crazy. And you try to explain it to guys like we're not used to it.
Yeah, like you don't understand.
Like even junior, like there's not many buildings, even in the AHL.
Yeah, not every fan base is going to be as passionate and buying in as what they were.
And you can tell, like when Toledo got on the ice, they were at home and they fed off that energy. And like whenever they would score the goal and the horn would go off and the glass would be shaking,
they throw the thing on the ice.
Yeah, the walleye out on the ice, and it's intimidating. I mean, like it's loud. You can't think.
And their fans know the game too. I know, like they were chirping and pointing with all kinds of fingers.
Yeah, I got a couple of the chosen ones, but that kind of happens everywhere for me.
Fair enough.
But no, it was really cool to be able to play there in the finals. It was unique in regards to the fan base that they have and how much they love the walleye and just how different it was. Even on the ice, like talking on the ice usually is a little bit easier, but you couldn't hear a thing. Like to go over plays or like listen to the, when there's timeouts, you can't hear anything. So
a lot of little things that really take you out of your element, I guess.
Yeah, it's the communication factor's almost taken out of it. So you gotta, go off of, your tendencies and stuff that has worked for us all season and our systems to knowing where guys are going to be rather than hearing voices because you literally couldn't hear anything. And Toledo, I mean, they were
full marks,
extremely good team,
very good, and they have been for a long time. I first started calling games in this league in 2015-16. If you had asked me, hey Chris, who's like historically probably been one of the better, if not the best team in the league since you've been there, it wouldn't have to rack my brain too hard to tell you it's probably Toledo, cream of the league for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And the Detroit organization helped them as well, like similar to us.
Very similar.
And they ran into some injuries and stuff like that. They were a little bit banged up, but no different.
That stage of the game, who's not, right?
When you come down to the finals, everybody's playing with bumps and bruises, and you're just hoping that you can stay as healthy as possible. And yeah, when we got down there and we had a chance to close it out and didn't get it done, obviously it was tough.
Oh yeah.
It was one of those games where the hardest thing to do is to end a team season, and in the finals is even harder.
It's the hardest possible. But that all led to one of my favorite moments of the whole season is getting off the airplane back home after having been to Toledo. We know all the road trips are done for the year. Whatever happens now is happening at home. And coming down the escalator at St. John's International, it was, I think it was our standard flight getting in. We didn't get in till 2 or 3 in the morning. And there was, a couple hundred people at the airport, noisemakers, jerseys, the whole 9 yards. What's your memory of that? I think it was you. One of the first off the plane, reeling the boys in so that they would all walk down together. Which I was like, man, I never thought of this, but like knowing that so many fans were going to be in the airport, the support was obviously there. Obviously, we want to go down in a uniform fashion. What do you remember about that moment? Because that was one of the coolest ones for me.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how passionate the people of Newfoundland are about hockey, and that we have, our city and our province behind us throughout the playoffs and the season, and even more so coming back with a chance to finish the job. And to have so many people on opportune time to come out late night to meet us at the airport just to show their support. It was cool. And I mean, for us as hockey players, you don't notice it as much, but it's something as little as, you know, a fist pump with a fan.
It's huge.
It can change, like,
it can.
The way they feel or anything like that. And I'm sure there's a lot of younger kids there that'll remember that for the rest of their life, that they were at the airport and gave knuckles to the Growlers as they came home. And no, it was special, and it kind of drives you that, you know, you're getting this much support when you haven't really even accomplished anything, you know, like if we don't win in the finals, well, you're just another team that went to the finals and didn't get it done, you know.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see that. And then obviously
Game 6 is
coming home,
was,
and the people, the amount of, I had to turn off my phone because
was
everybody was looking for tickets.
It's almost a distraction.
It is. My buddies and family and stuff like that, I took care of the people that were
your inner circle,
that were always here from the start of the season to the end, and as much as I could,
of course,
outside of that. And I pretty much just told my mom, hey, listen, this is how many tickets I get, you sort it out, because I don't want anything to do with it. So I just kind of like turned off my phone because I didn't want to have to be dealing with like people texting me, hey, can you get me tickets? Can you get this? Can you get me that?
You had a job to do here, right?
You know, so I wanted to be kind of focused in, and yeah, just it was just such a different feeling. Like, even in regards to getting out of your vehicle to walk to the rink, like
someone's gonna notice you.
Even talking about it, gives you cold shivers, because it was such a different feeling, like, before the game. Like, there was so much confidence for us that we knew we were like, there's no chance this is going to Game 7. There was zero chance. Like, it ends tonight. This is it.
That's crazy.
And it was just like, even before the game, it was like nobody really said a whole lot. Everybody just kind of knew what needed to be done. And
now I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah,
man. This is movie level stuff.
Yeah, and then you get out on the ice and the place is just
jammed.
Absolutely going crazy. Like, it was, I'm sure the craziest the Mall one has ever seen. And you know, like, the anthems go through, and then they sing
the ode
to Newfoundland, and it was, for me, it was almost like I almost cried on the bench. I'm like, this is insane. Like, the crowd is going
bonkers.
Absolutely wild. It was crazy. And then you go through the game, and we get that first goal from Brad's, and the place just
erupted. That was late in the first, too. I think you got just deep enough into the game to let the fans get a little anxious.
Yeah. So, and it was like, boom, he scored. So there's that little bit of relief where it's like, you get the first one, and it's okay, you can. Everybody takes a bit of a deeper breath. Nobody's hanging onto their sticks as tight.
Yeah, you got the first one.
Right? Like, nobody, in those big games, nobody wants to make mistakes.
Oh, for sure.
Which, it's tough. It's
got to be hard to open up a bit because you're just squeezing so tight, eh?
Yeah, it's not really the way that you want to play, but you can't control it. Like, it's such an important game, and emotions are running so high that you just can't help yourself. And then I think who scored?
Kess, I think, got...
was it Hudson got?
No, he was the one who was probably interfering with the goalie. No, I remember Cass. It was kind of a scrum in front. He kind of pulled it, tucked it, kind of through. I don't know how it went in even still, and I've watched the highlights only 2,000 times.
Yep.
2-0, and that happened like
bang
2 minutes into the second. So then that's exactly the start I assume you were trying to hope for.
Yeah.
All year I know the message has been get off to a good start, get your legs going early. You're in the second period of what could be and what ended up being the last game of the year. Obviously, you're like, let's go. Get that next one now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then it all kind of picked up from there. Like, you could see our momentum was starting to go a little bit more.
But they scored like a minute later, though.
Yeah.
Tansy, I remember that fake from
shot,
the top. Yeah,
you
remember.
And then scored, but it was still like our intensity was still up. It was still going.
Then it was the Geo show.
Yeah. And then
two of the nicest goals he scored all year.
And it was one of those things that we had so many guys that
could have been anybody.
Clutch players, you know what I mean? That when we needed big time goals, we had so many guys that could bring that for us.
Yeah.
It was honestly like you can't really describe it. It was amazing. And then, you know, they start to put a little bit of pressure on, and then it was like boom, they scored one, and then boom, they scored another one. So then it's like I'm
sweating buckets in the booth. I can barely stay conscious.
So no matter what, you're still confident. We're like, we can still do it. You don't want to put too much pressure on yourself, or like we're still in the driver's seat here, but it's still you're going, well, it gives them a shot of life. So it was crazy. And then at the end they put the push on, and the puck went out to the point, and Obi ended up
with a huge block.
A huge block. And I think honestly he had a big block, and then did it come back around and the puck went out to the point? He had 2 blocks, I think it was.
Because I remember it was the last play, there was 18 seconds left, and the faceoff ended up back at center ice. Do you remember that? Because everyone lost sight of the puck. It ended up getting iced and nobody knew it.
Yeah.
Anyway, faceoff ended up back at center ice, which I thought was actually a bit of a break. And I remember they rimmed it in only because I've watched the highlights. It's like my job to do that. And I remember it came out the side. It was register at the point.
I remember.
2-time defending champ here in this 3-time defending. He won.
Yeah, he has 3. He's been.
That's nuts. He's the winningest ECHLer. He's a legend at this level for winning championships.
And I remember, the puck came out around, and I thought that Obi, just lay down and wore it because I was behind the net. So the puck hopped over my stick. Puck came out. Register, let one fly. Obi absolutely hammered it, took the shot, and then the puck came back out around, and at this point my gloves are off. I didn't know. and I'm looking at Gartz, and he's still at the top of his crease ready for a save, and he made a last save. Now the time expired and stuff, but I looked at him and we joked about it after. I said, what were you doing? He was like, well, there was still time on the clock. You had your gloves off, and there was still a shot on net. So,
no way.
Then it was just pure emotion. You battle so long for a long season with, your brothers, and it was a long year in regards to travel and the amount of times we got delayed and stuck in Toronto and had to drive to Buffalo and. Go back.
I never had to do that. I think that was only once, right?
And then, showing up the one trip when we went down south and we got in at 4:00 in the morning to the hotel and had to play.
That was South Carolina, wasn't it?
It was Atlanta first, and then we played Atlanta, and then we got in. Same thing. It was late to South Carolina.
And Atlanta was on a heater, too.
Yeah.
They had won 14 in a row or something silly.
Yeah. We ended up
7-1.
Absolutely spanking them. But
weird things you remember.
Throughout the season, it was a lot of stuff that we dealt with, and throughout the season, it's not everything is going to go your way. But it's if it's out of your control, it's out of your control. For us, it's once we get on the ice, you play hockey, and that's our job. Everything else is we can't do anything else about it. So. When you have a good group of guys that kind of just laugh things off, when you're hugging each other at the end, it all makes it worth it for,
man.
Going to battle all year. And then, even thinking about it now, the last 10 seconds of the game, you couldn't hear anything. Yeah. It was just madness. But it was that loud, it almost sounded quiet. It was weird. It was super weird.
I know what you mean, though.
And everybody was up on their feet, and It was just such an amazing moment for all the people in Newfoundland, for our team, for our families, old coaches, everybody that got you to this point. It's beneficial for them too. They see a lot of joy in seeing you succeed if they've helped you along the way. So it was cool. And then obviously for myself being from here, it was amazing to have family. My grandparents were there, and
that's awesome.
My parents, and having them come down on the ice after and share moments like that, it's something that I'll remember forever.
As much as I hate to end this conversation and continue to share memories here with you, we will move on to the next segment here of the podcast, a little fan Q&A. So not too long ago, I put a call out on my own Twitter feed to let the fans know that we would be launching a podcast and to send in any questions or ideas for questions, and we'll do our best to have our guest answer them. So James is still here, so we'll roll into, I got 3 that I've pulled here, and a couple of them are leading burning questions, James, and I'll get to that. Aiden Foley on Twitter asked us to talk about some funny pranks that happened, or if you have any funny road trip stories. So I'm going to poke you and lead you in a specific direction here. Funny road trip stories. One that jumps out to me is in the hotel in Adirondack. I understand you weren't the biggest fan of perhaps the paranormal entities in this hotel. What I know we haven't talked about it since. What happened in Adirondack, James?
So I'm sure all the boys that hear this will all get a good chuckle. Nobody believes me except for
I believe you, James.
Steph LeBlanc. He was my roommate. Yeah, so we were in Adirondack, and the hotel that we were staying at, I've stayed at before, but I didn't really know a whole lot about it. We always knew that it was kind of haunted and whatnot, but
or at least assumed.
Assumed, like you heard stories and stuff. But we got in, and I guess the first thing we were watching TV, and we turned off the TV, and both of us rolled over. So the beds, we were both. I would have been looking one way, and Steph would have been looking
another way. Or you turn away from each other.
Turn away from each other. So we would have been back to back. And we've been talking about how, like, weird stuff happens at this hotel. So anyway, we're probably lying in bed for a couple minutes, and all of a sudden we hear, like, this, like, thump. And it's like, it sounds like something has fallen off the nightstand and fell onto the floor. So, like, we flick on the light, like, I look at Steph, he looks at me, I'm going, man, like, why are you messing with me?
Right?
And he's like, no, you're messing with me. I'm like, well, they're like a remote roll off the bed or like a pillow, anything. So we get up and we look around the room and there's nothing, and we're both kind of like giggling at this point, like, this is crazy. Like,
what are we doing?
What's the chances of this happening? Like, why us?
Right.
And so we couldn't really figure it out. We're like, okay, this is insane. So he gets up to use the bathroom, and when he gets close to the door to the hallway, it's like I can't even describe or make a sound like it. It was like a demon growl.
Stop.
Outside the door. So his head kind of snapped back and looked at me, and he was like, you heard that, right? And I was like, yeah, I heard it. Like, what was it? And he goes, I have no idea. So at this point, we're laughing, but we're scared.
Yeah,
like,
you're trying to laugh through the terror.
Yeah, like this is a little insane. So he gets back in bed, and I'm going, I'm not sleeping. Like, this is this is crazy. Like, I'm staying up. And mind you, we had was it a game the next?
I think so.
Yeah, we must have. Anyway, we laughed it off. Anyway, turned the TV on, and we put it on like a timer. So we're like, okay, at least the light will be on. There's some background noise. We can fall asleep, and it'll all be good. So I fell asleep, and I wake up. So my eyes open up, and people have told me it's like, oh, what you're describing is the old hag.
Yeah.
Well, I've had the old hag before, and this
God.
was different. Like, the year I had the old hag, it was my first year pro. My roommate was gone, so I was living by myself at that time. Uh-huh. And I woke up, and all the things were like the old hag. And it was the same as I jumped in the shower.
If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's not something you want to ever experience in your life. Anyway, so I knew what the old hag was. This was completely different. So I opened up my eyes, and I couldn't see anything, but it was like somebody was kneeling on my chest, and they were trying to squeeze every bit of oxygen out of my lungs.
What the heck?
So I'm alert, and I'm trying to speak, but I can't speak. So I'm yelling for.
Oh, that's the worst.
In my mind, like, I'm yelling. I'm going like, bonker, bonker, and nothing is coming out. So I can't speak, and I'm thinking like, this is it. This is how I die. And anyway, after like the fifth time of me trying to wake him up, I finally like, bonker, and I look over, and he's sitting up in his bed. Like, not like lying down on his pillow. He's sitting up straight in the bed.
On his phone or something. Like,
no, not on his phone. Like, he's asleep. He was asleep, but sitting up on his.
I thought you were trying to say that he was just sitting up awake, and he was just like, "What the hell are you doing?"
He like, it startles him, and he's like, "What's going on?" I was like, and I told him the whole thing, and he goes, "No way!" And then he's like, "Why am I sitting up in my bed?"
What is going on?
So then it was like, he was like, we looked at the time, and he was like, it was kind of like an eerie feeling before, like you could feel was almost like a breeze in our room kind of thing. And he said he fell asleep, like his head was on the pillow. And when we looked at the time, like the timer on the TV the TV might have been shut off like 5 minutes. So everything happened when it was dark.
Oh, hell no.
So at this point, I'm freaking out. Like I'm not sleeping. I'm packing my stuff. I text Trevor, who's in charge of like all of our hotels and our flights and everything. I text him it was like 3:30 in the morning. And if you look it up, like ghost stories and everything, like everything happens at like 3 o'clock, like from 3 to 4.
Great.
So I have myself freaked out. So I'm like, I message him. I go, I'm done. Like you
message him in the middle of the night because you had a ghost experience?
It was 3:30 something. I'll have to pull up the email sometime and show it to you. And you'll get a good laugh at it. But I texted him and I said, hey, listen, like, I'm out of here.
This is going to sound crazy. I just had a bad night.
I was like, I just got pinned to my bed by a ghost. I'm done. I'm not staying here. I almost packed up my bags and just left the hotel. Bus. I was like, you know what? Like, what's the worst that could happen? I'll walk around. I'll find somewhere to just hang out, and that's it. Like,
you didn't do that, though.
No. So I sat up, and Blanker was there, and we're both kind of laughing because it sounds crazy. Yeah. But I was like, This happened. I'm like, I'm never staying here again. So anyway, we stay up. He kind of falls back to sleep. I'm like, I'm not going back to sleep. Like,
who could sleep?
Forget this. So it was a long night. I got up in the morning and I started telling the boys. And I had to there'd be like groups come down to breakfast. And then I'd tell one person. And then as soon as the next group would come down, I'd have to tell the story again. And then Trevor came to me and goes, what was your email about last night? So it was a big going on of all that. And anyway, the next time we were going back to Adirondack, we were in Reading. So Chloe had just come back from when he took
his
the time.
First absence.
Yeah, his first absence. So I'm not staying in this hotel. Like, we're going back to Adirondack. I said, I'm not staying in this hotel.
I'm getting out ahead of this. I am not staying here.
And I told Trev, and I, like, talked to Snowy, would have been the assistant coach at the time. I told him, and they were laughing. They're like, you're out of your mind. Like, all the boys are going, like, this ain't true. And I'm like, I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm not staying in this hotel. Man. So they're like, okay, go talk to Chloe. So I walk into the coach's room, and Chloe kind of looks at me. He's like,
are you serious?
Like, what? Do you need something? And I'm like, yeah. Like, so I had to tell.
Oh my God.
This man of a man.
Oh, a man's man.
A man's man that is one of the most intimidating people in all of hockey that I've met. I had to tell him that a ghost took me over and tried to push the wind out of my body.
What was his reaction?
And I told him, I'm like, listen, I don't care. I'm just not staying there. I said, I'll be back for the meals. I'm not going to miss anything. Like, I'll Uber. I'm fine. Like, I'm not staying here.
God.
So I ended up, he's like, well, like, whatever you need to do. And I told him, I said, listen, you can tell me that I'm not allowed to do it. I'm just not staying at that hotel. I said, I'll just go stay somewhere else. Whether you like it or not, I'm not going back.
Oh, my God.
And he was like, yeah, all right, that's
whatever,
fine.
Man.
He goes, just don't tell anybody that you're staying in a different place because he doesn't want me to freak out the other boys,
of course.
Right? So I ended up booking a couple nights at the Holiday Inn
You
Express.
Actually did?
On my own dime, I said, I'm done. I'm not staying there. I booked my own hotel.
Stop. I don't remember that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe you kept it a little to
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah, I kept it pretty low-key. But I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express by myself. It was like a 7 or 8 minute drive from the hotel.
Get
and
out.
Yeah, I told Trevor when I signed, I said, in my contract, like, I ain't staying at that hotel when we go play there this year.
Seriously?
And we had a good chuckle about it.
Are you saying that because haha we get to laugh about it now? Or are you saying that because no, I'm serious. We're not going back to.
I'm not going back there. No chance.
Wow. I didn't know the Pandora's box I was opening by asking you this question. Yeah. Do I have to apologize for asking this to you now?
No,
that's crazy.
But if something ends up happening to me tonight,
it's on me now.
The blood is on your hands.
Okay, great. Pranks was another thing Aiden Foley asked about. There's one I'm going to hone right in on. I'm not even going to let you talk about anything else than this. I let it leak a little bit in social, in the guys in the room, that early last season, Marcus Power's dress socks, from my understanding, his street socks continued to go missing. And people thought it was funny because I put out a video. Marcus was like, boys, my socks kept going. And I would like to, from my understanding, and I've been around this team, obviously as long as yourself, there seems to be a couple of people who are behind on a routine and regular basis, a couple of bodies in charge of shenanigans, it seems. I'm not pointing any fingers at all. But I think I'm talking to a source of information here. Can you, without, you can incriminate yourself, you can tell the whole story, you can tell a part of the story. Can you at least, for the sake of Aiden Foley and the fans who have been waiting, give us an update on the sock bandit, please?
Yeah, so...
Or you can clear up if I have some misinformation in there too. I don't know how much.
So no matter what happens, I always get blamed. I'm always the one that gets blamed for anything that happens in the dressing room or on the road or anything in regards to funny stuff. It's Meller. Always Meller. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, it wasn't me. So I'll go out and I'll say that right off the bat. But anyway, it started. I think we were on the road. And one of Marcus's socks went missing. I had no understanding of it.
Okay.
It was it happened, and then he thought it was me that stole his sock, but I didn't have it. And then the next day, his sock got stolen again, and somebody had taken mine as well.
Ooh.
So I thought it was Marcus stealing, trying to be funny. So
sure.
I left the rink one sock. Marcus ended up going to Kachi, our equipment manager, and getting a hockey sock and wearing it out of the dressing room. So I'm looking going, I got one sock on. Whoever's doing this is either Marcus or somebody's trying to frame,
caught on to this.
You know what I mean? So from there, it kind of just snowballed. Every day we would come in and Marcus would be losing his mind, where it was one of his socks was gone, and it went on for it had to be
a while. That's why I'm bringing it up.
It had to be a month. It was over a month for sure, where every day
that's excellent.
One of his socks would go missing. And
what was his reaction every time?
I think he was just defeated.
Furious.
But it's kind of stupidity. If somebody was going to steal one of my socks every day, I just wouldn't wear socks to the rink. Right?
Oh, my God.
So, when he was doing laundry, it must have just been a nightmare because he was just had a ton of...
sea of socks.
Single socks.
That's so funny.
But, yeah, it went on for a while, and then one day, I guess, all of his socks or whatever the culprit could find...
All of them showed back up?
Showed back up in his stall. So it was probably a month and a half, and I got blamed every day, but he would see me. He would scope down on me all the time to see where I was going. And he would always say to me, he's like, well, I hid my socks and they're still gone. Whoever's doing it. I don't know who it was. I personally think it was Brad's, just because he had a little bit of a smirk on him, and you know what Brad's is like. And I think it had to be him, because no matter what, Marcus thought it was going to be me or Pards. Because I'm not going to be honest. Yes, majority stuff was us. The majority stuff was us, yeah. But this wasn't, and I'm kind of mad because it was a good...
Ooh, so I'm asking you about a prank you didn't even do.
Yeah, I wish I did.
Damn.
And then he started to get mad at me, and I told him, I said, listen, if I did it, I'd be proud of myself. But
that's a darn good one. I've got one I can even share. I don't know how much, if you had been privy to this one. I think this was during the playoffs when we were in Brampton. And I had left my gear. I know who did it now, so I don't mind sharing the story. So I carry
before you start, who do you think did it? Because you thought it was me.
But look, I'm not trying to say, but yeah, look, I mean, your reputation precedes you, dude. I thought it was between you and Pards, but initially, let me get into it. I carry a big, it's almost like a toolbox with all of my gear, my broadcast equipment, my headsets, my console thing here. So we were in Brampton for games 3 through 5 of the first round. And I used to work for Brampton, so I know a few people there. My case and everything inside it was covered in Brampton Beast stickers, which so led me to believe that it was someone Beast related, one of my buddies who was working in the front office who's like, oh, that's Ballard's gear? Sweet. Let me just sticker the hell out of this thing. So, and me, I'm like, this is the playoffs. This is so unprofessional. This is ridiculous. Like, obviously, I'm just stressed. Everything. I was anxious leading up to everything going on, and I went ham. I freaked out at a few people I knew in the Brampton office. I was like, give me a break. Your stickers. This is expensive equipment. Nothing got ruined. I was hamming it up a little bit even. I'm like, I now have to buy Goo Gone to get the remnants off. I was pissed. And it turns out it was just Kochi all along. He went into Brampton's room, our equipment manager, Kochi. He went into Brampton's room. He was like, hey, man, because I'm tight with their equipment staff, too, as he would be. So he was like, hey, Stixie, I'm going to, like, mess with Ballard. Do you have, like, a bunch of stickers or something? And he was like, oh, you're messing with Ballard? Sweet. And just loaded him up, apparently, with stickers. And I'm still finding these friggin' things. Like, I got one on the bottom of this deck right now because I found it late. So that's my prank. But, I mean, coming full circle, it's all good fun. It helps keeps guys loose. I like it. I don't even mind if I'm the butt of it. I thought that was great. Do you feel the same way? Do pranks have a place in the game?
Yes, I think so. It keeps things light because throughout a season, there's tense times,
travel,
and especially like there's a lot of different personalities, and sometimes you want to be able to let people out of their shell too. So, it's not harassing by any means.
It's good nature.
It's good nature. It's nothing that gets taken too far or anything like that. So it's all in good fun, and it just lightens things up. Like, everything is so serious for a lot of the time. Like, when we're on the ice, everything is serious. When we're playing games, it's serious. Workouts are serious. So anytime you get to just blow off a bit of steam, here. It's good. And one more prank that's actually hilarious, and it almost blew up to the point where there was almost a brawl in warm-up. This is funny.
What?
I
don't know if I know this one. Let's go.
We were in Orlando, and we were out for warm-up, and we were skating around, whatever, doing our warm-up, and I look at the red line, and Matt Bradley's at the red line. Or no, before this all happened. So we're skating around, and we look at Brad's, and he has, I'm not sure if it said Matt or Matthew on the front of his helmet, like when you're a kid. Like, yeah,
they put the big sticker right on the front, so the hockey camp instructors know who the heck you are.
Yeah, so they know your name. So we go out. It's a game in the middle of the season. We're thinking like, okay, why does Brad's have his first name on the front of his helmet? But we're all laughing, like we think it's hilarious.
This is in game?
So this is in warm up.
Okay.
And anyway, we're all giggling and stuff, and the boys are going around like, hey, have a look at Brad's helmet. Like, did you do it? And I'm like, no, but that's hilarious. Like, this is priceless. Anyway, we're doing, like, our breakout, so everybody's kind of up close to the red line between the red and the blue. And I look over, and there's, like, 3 of their Orlando's players, and they're kind of, like, poking at Brad's helmet. And I'm thinking, like,
what's going on?
What is going on? And he doesn't understand, and I'm thinking
he doesn't know this helmet's on.
He has no idea.
Okay.
So I go over and I'm thinking like, what's on the go? And one of the guys is like looking at Brad's, going, "You come here right now, come here." And I'm thinking like,
whoa,
you don't touch him. Like, what are you talking about? And then he's like looking at Brad's, and he's like got his glove out of his hand, or his glove, hand out of his glove.
Yeah, we got you.
You know what I meant.
Yep.
And he's reaching for Brad's helmet, and I'm thinking, what the hell? And he's going, "Come here, you idiot! You got your name on your helmet." And Brad's is going, "What do you mean?" And he's like, this guy's trying to grab him. I'm like, what's going on? They're like,
he's like, "No, dummy, you're
an idiot." And he like comes over and he like grabs it and he like rips it off. He's like, "Why do you have your name on your helmet? Like, what are you doing, you rookie?" And he like slapped him back in the helmet. So then at this point, I'm like, Okay, I just thought there was going to be a full-on brawl and warm-up.
Oh, my God.
And Brad is going around like he didn't know what was going on. He thought he was probably going to get jumped or something. And we got a good chuckle out of it. We got back to the room, and we couldn't figure it out. And it ended up being Pards came out and said it after that he didn't play that game, but we didn't morning skate. The whole team didn't morning skate that morning, but the players that didn't play did. So he thought...
Or it
was like the day before. So he had put it on the day before. We didn't skate that morning. So it had been on for a while. Like he would have never did it if he knew like we weren't going to skate. So and then he just forgot about it. So he said like he came out and seen that Brad's had in warm up for a game. Matthew across his forehead.
I gotta find pictures of that. I bet you it's probably on the game tape, of him buzzing around in warm up.
It was so funny. Like we laughed about it so hard, and then throughout the season, we would always see if we could get guys. There was always, you put something funny on somebody's forehead, and they go around all practice. We never really did it for games because it was never...
game time is game time.
Game time is game time, but we would do it for practices and stuff. We got Todd a couple times just because he was an easy target.
Yeah, I get that.
But other than that, yeah, that was one of the funniest things I think I've seen in regards to pranks and stuff because it could have blown up. We thought it was going to be a brawl, and it ended up being Brad's with his first name on his helmet.
Oh, that's so good. Ooh, so that was our first question in the Q&A. Thank you, Aidan Foley, for that. I don't think the rest will be so long. We'll have to squeeze a few more of these prank stories out of you, maybe on a different episode. Dean Cutler asks about favorite pregame meals and any superstitions. I'm going to flip this question, actually. Have you now grown to hate the standard athlete pregame meal, of which I assume to be pasta or rice with some salad and a chicken breast? How far off am I?
Yeah, pasta and chicken is just the most...
How many chicken breasts do you think you've eaten in your whole life? It's got to be like 50,000 or something, right?
Yeah, a whole lot of chickens. Well, I got to think, like, ever since I moved away when I was 14, literally before every game you would have
that
pasta with a chicken. And I think it was the year when I played in Wheeling that we went to the finals that we ended up playing, like, 90 or close to 100 games, and it was every game. And I said to myself, I might never ever eat this meal ever again. Like, you get so disgusted with it. You'd sit down for a pregame meal, and it was just like you'd have to force it in your body just because it was like, I hate this right now.
I get it.
So now for me, it's chicken and pasta. No, if I'm at home, if we're on the road, I can make it happen. But at home, there's no chance. There's no chance I'm cooking pasta at all.
So what's on the menu then at home?
It depends. I'll do like sweet potato or rice. I usually stick with chicken breast, but
You can gussy it up a bit at home.
Yeah, it's not at home. You can make it better. Like on the road and stuff, you're getting just if you're making it for 30, 35 people, the quality of it
drops significantly.
It's not going to be good. It's usually
that's not a knock against any caterer. That is just the fact of the matter.
Yes, it's a lot of food for players, so the quality always isn't the best. So it always ends up tasting like it's boiled chicken.
Yep,
which is disgusting. So for me, yeah, like anything, like I'm not too picky now anymore. Yeah. Like I used to be, like if I played good, I had to eat the same thing, or like I was.
So a little superstition tied into your meal.
Yeah, like if I play good, I would try to do all the same things, and I'm a little bit similar now, but not to the same extent. But now it's just like if I eat healthy no matter what.
Right.
So I'll usually, if I have leftovers, bonus, like I'll probably eat that for my pregame. But if not, it'll just be some rice, some vegetables, and maybe some sort of protein. Probably try to stick away from like steak and stuff just because it's a little bit heavier.
It's definitely heavier.
But
yeah. There you go. Now, are you one of the... I've noticed very quickly in the different realms of hockey in which I've worked, most hockey players seem obsessed with Chipotle, especially on the road. Are you among that crew that you would say, yes, I'm a Chipotle addict? For those of you outside the province, Chipotle is simply a burrito chain, but it's very good.
Yeah, it's good. I used to like it a lot, and then I found out, well, I don't exactly know for sure if I am, but I think I'm allergic to avocado. It just really...
Oh, snap.
I would always get guacamole on my burritos
Sure.
or bowls, so whenever I would eat it, it always came. So Chipotle for me was always tainted
associated
to the point
with
like,
that gut rot.
That like pain. And the only way I can describe it is a softball with nails through it, and it'd be like swallowing it and then get it to the middle of your chest and then going right back up to your throat again, and then coming back down for like 2 hours. So Chipotle was always that feeling for me.
Right.
And then I kind of figured out that, okay, it's avocado that's doing it, and I kind of slowly got back into it a bit. Now, I wouldn't say I would go out of my way to go get Chipotle like some of the guys do.
Yeah,
like,
some of the guys are like, stop the bus, we're next to a Chipotle.
Yeah, like guys quiver, like they start to shake when they get around there.
I love Chipotle, but I'm not like nuts over it.
No. Like, it's good, but if you're like, I don't know. I
feel like it's the
Subway
of this generation.
Yeah,
it's just easy, it's not unhealthy.
But if you go to like Mustang Sally's, for instance, here in town, like that is 10 times better than what you can get at Chipotle. Is. So that for me is like,
shout out to Mustang Sally.
Yeah, seriously, give me a sponsorship or something.
We are looking for podcast sponsors.
But I don't know. A lot of guys are crazy about it, but me, not so much. I enjoy it, but
not the be all and end all.
No, not at all.
Do you have like a cheat day meal that you just like, you're a Big Mac guy, or you know what I mean? Like, do you have like, is it a Big Mary or something?
Big Mary's, unbelievable. Big Mary taters, small gravy, birch beer.
You're going full noof.
Birch beer, and that's so. I enjoy them from maybe a little more than I should. So yeah, Mary Brown's, or every now and then when I'm feeling like I want to get a
good feed in you.
A good feed, Keats.
Now that leads perfectly into our next segment, which I'm going to do right now, the Growlerville segment. This week we are going to obviously focus on, since we have James here, the great community of the Goulds. Is it Goulds or the Gould? Where do we land on that?
I think it's the Goulds.
Oh, my apologies. So the Goulds indeed. So really, James, obviously it's outside of St. John's. It's a part of St. John's. Just in general, give me your Reader's Digest. Sum up the Goulds for us. The Goulds.
Well, for people outside of the Goulds, it's all probably, everybody says, "Oh, I'll never go there." But for somebody growing up, it was always awesome because I always lived close to my buddies. So we all grew up, and when you're around the city and stuff, everything's a lot more populated. I think the Goulds is like anywhere from 12 to 16,000 maybe.
Okay.
So it's not completely small, but yeah, it was a great place to grow up. Like, we had everything that I needed.
For sure.
It's not like everybody thinks it is, like you're completely isolated from everything. Like, from my house to the mall, one is 12 minutes. So like,
right.
You're not far from everything, but everybody goes, "Oh, the Goulds, you must be like 40 minutes away from everything."
No.
Which isn't true. But for me, it was awesome. I like growing up, I always had like ATVs and dirt bikes and skidoos in the winter, so it was awesome. I could leave from my house, and there was all kinds of dirt roads and stuff like that me and my buddies would go and ride. And even when I was younger, like going out on pedal bikes and stuff, we would always build like dirt jumps and stuff, which, I mean, in the city you still see a little bit, but
today you don't, man.
Today you don't, because everything is technology.
Go outside and play, boys. Tell your kids.
I know, and we didn't, like, it wasn't cell phones or anything. It was called like landlines, and try to figure out where your buddies were, and everything was kind of
just run across the street and knock on the door.
Knock on the door, or it was like, "Hey, we're going out on our bikes. Like, we're meeting here right after school." So it was like you go in, you throw your book bag in the house, grab your bike, and
scream at mom, tell her you'll be home for supper, and
and then you were gone.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it was your parents trying to run around to see where you were to haul you home for dinner, and it was awesome. I lived there until I was 14 when I first moved away, but it's a special place for me. I bought a home there. Like, all my buddies still live in the Goulds, so we all live really, really close.
So you and your buddies who you grew up with, not all, but there's some of you who still live in the Goulds?
Yeah, we all bought houses in the Goulds. So,
get out.
It's one of those things, like, if you're not from the Goulds, it's hard to understand like all about it, but Goulds, it's It's awesome. I love it. It's low key. You're more not so much that city life, but at the same time, you're still close enough to everywhere where it's not an inconvenience to get anywhere.
No, for sure. No, just outside Mount Pearl, it shares a lot of, I know, with like the harbor and the cove too. Am I wrong in that? Petty Harbor, Maddox Cove? Because I know a buddy of mine used to play softball. He used to live in the Goulds and used to play softball with the crowd in the cove.
Yep.
So that's I'm just trying to set it up geographically here.
Yeah.
That's all kind of one. We'll say. What was it like playing hockey in the Goulds? I remember I used to play for the St. John's Caps, having to play every couple weeks. Had a game against the Pacers out in the Goulds Arena. I loved it because that was the only place when I played like Adam All-Star or whatever. The Goulds Arena had music between play, and they had a goal horn at that time. That was what I loved about going to the Goulds to play. But obviously you grew up, and I can only assume played your youngest days of hockey out in the Goulds. Talk about the Goulds as a hockey community.
Yeah, in regards to hockey, when I was coming up through, we always had like a nucleus of pretty good players where we were competitive, but we didn't have the numbers like, Avalon Celtics or the Caps or CBS would have. So it was tough for us to compete completely, but we still had some good players. I still to this day, and anybody that hears me will probably laugh, but I still think the Goulds has the best sheet ice in the city.
Really?
Yep.
So remember, that's a cold rink.
It's cold.
But that makes good ice,
It
though.
is really cold. They finally, a few years back, put a warm room up there, which was much needed. And it's, I enjoyed my time. And then I think 1 year we didn't have enough players to try out. So us and Northeast combined. So we were Combines was our team, which is pretty funny. Ended up making some good friends from that team and still keep in contact. And I think one of them he just got married that played on that team. He was from Torbay and going to end up going to his wedding in October sometime.
That's wild.
If our schedule agrees with
Of course, yes. The big if in this business. Obviously, what I think of when I think of the Goulds is, I mean, you mentioned Keith's Diner, an institution. Tell me about it. What's your? Now I'm going to preface this by saying I don't actually think I've ever eaten there, but that's all I hear about the Goulds. It's bid goods. It's the smell when you enter the Goulds. Sorry, that sticks with the Goulds. But I love the Goulds. Don't get me wrong. I was at Bid Goods like last week. But no, you're right. Yeah. It's that outdoorsy. It's home. It's that's kind of what I remember about the Goulds. But why the Goulds rules? That's the saying. Goulds rules. You said it during the parade when you got the mic. I think we make graphics that say that, showing you when you hit guys and score and stuff. Why does the Goulds rule?
I think it all goes back to everybody used to say it like back in the day, and then the junior high, St. Kevin's Junior High had an extension onto it, and it burnt down. I don't know how many years ago. I was only young, but the only piece that was kind of left from the building was a doorway that was brick, and on the side of it had Goulds rules on it.
No way.
So there's a picture out there somewhere of it, but that's kind of my first memory of like Goulds rules, and then everybody that's from the Goulds is super proud of being from there.
Absolutely.
Like you'll never meet somebody from the Goulds saying, this place is trash. Like everybody loves it. Even if they don't love it, they say they love it.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's just kind of all those things, like just everybody being so close to each other, the smell. Which is funny because it's not a bad thing at all.
No, it's not.
Because for me, it was whenever I would come home at the end of seasons and stuff, and you'd smell the
my
cow.
God, like it would just fill you with.
I'm like, I'm home,
Absolutely.
And so my house right now is an extension of one of the roads that has a dirt road on it, and we always get the honey wagons coming up through. So anybody that doesn't know what a honey wagon is the tractor pulls this big container around that's full of cow, and they bring it out on the fields.
Why is it called the honey wagon?
But that's
I get it. I don't know. That's what it's called. No questions asked.
Yeah. So honey wagon. So every time, like,
I love it.
You drive up my road. Sometimes it's just like cow manure just splattered all over because they fill up the tanks and sometimes it flops over the side or like there's some spraying off. And
oh my God.
It's now that I moved home, it's this summer they were spreading fairly frequently.
Hey, but that's it. Farming, a lot of farms out there is really what it comes down to.
So you don't keep your windows open ever because you don't want your house to smell. But yeah.
No, I'm just trying to paint a picture of the Goulds for people.
And it's for people that have never been, it's not like it smells like that all the time. It's
when you have a town that's got some farms in it, that's a byproduct of that, of being a wonderful town.
How many farms there are? There's one right behind my house. Like there's probably like
are we farm counting
5
right
to
now?
7 maybe.
Great.
Right?
That's
like,
awesome. Qualms at all. No, I didn't mean to be like, oh, yeah, Miller, it stinks going into the Goulds. Everybody knows it, but it's just...
Yeah. No, I didn't take it that way.
No, okay.
And anybody that says it, I laugh because everybody's like, it's disgusting. And everybody from the Goulds goes, it's awesome. Like, you're home.
It's definitely a fine line to be drawn in the sand.
And I always mess with people that like live in Kilbride or Mount Pearl, and I'm like, oh, you better watch out if the wind doesn't turn. Like you guys might get a smell of it too. So
if only they could be so lucky.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That is our Growlerville feature for our opening week podcast, where we're going to shine some light on some of the great hockey communities. Actually, before I abandon that, I think should give an opportunity, obviously having played hockey, any particular coaches or mentors, I guess, hockey in the Goulds for you growing up? I'll ask that first.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest influences were obviously my parents, number 1 and 2. Well, both number 1. I shouldn't say 1 or 2 because that could
rank your parents.
Yeah, that could get me in some hot water. But I mean, I grew up and I would always go to extreme hockey camps. It was Randy Piercy and Andrew McKim, and they were always super, super good to me. They always gave me a lot of ice time to work on my skills, and I always did the power skating and all the summer camps and the travel teams and stuff like that. So they were 2 pretty influential people that helped me out. And then when I was looking to move away, Andrew McKim was actually the first person that kind of came to me and said, hey, listen, like if you want to be serious about, taking your game to the next level, like it might be a good opportunity for you to potentially move away. And when I went to Notre Dame, he actually came out for a spring camp with me and my dad, and he was kind of my first kind of, I guess you would say, like family advisor before I actually got an agent. So he helped me out a lot, and 2 of those guys were extremely good to me.
Absolutely. All right, as much as I don't want this to end right now, it's been an awesome chat. James, thank you so much for your time and jumping in on everything with me here today. Really do appreciate it, and can't wait to get it all started out here again.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to opening night and hopefully a sold-out barn here at Mall 1. It's going to be another exciting season, and I know all the guys that are potentially coming back are excited to get back and get things rolling.
Can't wait myself. I've already got the board polished up, all the broadcast gears ready to go. Keep your eyes peeled, folks, on the Growlers social media channels in the coming days and weeks for more stuff leading into the upcoming season. Make sure to follow me at Growlers Ballard on Twitter. You want to plug your social, James? Do you want people following you, or we can cut this out?
Yeah, Mine's at Meller43 on pretty much everything. I do believe my Twitter and my Instagram is that, so...
there you go. Give the captain a follow. James Melindy. I'm Chris Ballard, play-by-play voice of the Newfoundland Growlers. Thank you all again so much for joining us. Let us know if you liked this podcast via social media. We want to make this as entertaining and as awesome for you folks as possible. And I know we're only 1 episode in, but I guess I can promote, like, comment, and subscribe, all those things. Rate us if you like it. I don't even know where this podcast lives yet, but already I'm trying to make sure that you guys support us so we can support you. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Growlers Nation Podcast with Chris Ballard. Follow the Growlers all season long on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at NL Growlers. Listen live to all 72 Growlers games on Mixlr, mixlr.com/NL Growlers.